morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of voice of radio. So today, I'm here to tell you about some illustration rares that don't make sense. Cards that are frankly too expensive and should not be up at the price they are. Most of the time I come on these videos and I explain to you, well, this card's gone up in price because of this, and this is falling because of this, and I'm going to give you the best estimation I can for these cards, but I want to start off by saying these cards don't make sense. Let me explain. We might as well start off with a big boy here. It is Magikarp. Of all the cards that don't make sense, this doesn't make sense the most. You see, and look, don't get me wrong, right? The Magikarp came in Paldea Evolved. It is a stunning card. Shinji Kanda drew it. It is one of the iconic cards in the Scarlet and Violet era so far. It is a phenomenal card artwork-wise. It's got the hidden Gyarados at the top. This is a lovely card. But there's no real explanation or justification for this being a $100 card. Because it is right now. Right now, you go over on TCG Player, and this is pretty much bang on a $100 card. It's gone up 60% in the 3 months, if anybody's wondering. This is a card that is jumping up in price quite considerably, and it doesn't seem like it's going down anytime soon. You know, even if we look at the graph here, in the past 3 months, the low was 60, and it's only going up from here. And the thing is, there's no reason for this. Because here's the thing, when there's a reason for a card being ridiculously expensive, it could be scarcity of pull rate, it could be a misprint of some description, it could be a ridiculously playable card. It's either something ridiculous like a misprint, which isn't the case here, or it's also true in Japan. It is not true in Japan. Over in Japan, Magikarp right now is a 2,400 yen card, 2,400 yen, which converts to $15, $15.65, but let's call it 15 bucks. If you want a comparison, it is just a little bit, call it kind of halfway between the Quaquavel and Skeledirge special illustration rares. Bit more than the Quaquavel, bit less than the Skeledirge. That's where it sits. If you look at the price of the equivalent Japanese set and the singles therein, that's where this card sits. Between two fairly uninspiring in terms of value special illustration rares. I love the Skeledirge by Kantaro. I think it's phenomenal. But I mean, in terms of price, it's nothing particularly special. It's fine. And that's where we are. That's where it sits. It is a pretty standard card. So, if we go and have a look at Paldea Evolved in English, this should be about a $10, $15 card. It should not be one of the biggest cards in the set. It should be sitting there as kind of a $10, $15 card. Not $100. This card, it's about 10 times what it should be. And that is frankly absurd. Absolutely absurd. And there's no real reason for this. Now, obviously, you can look at it and say, well, you know, Magikarp's Gen 1 and people like Gen 1, and yeah, that's fine. And you could look at it as, you know, the artwork and the fact that it's become a fairly iconic card, and okay, yeah, that's fine as well. But the thing is, that's the case over in Japan. Like I said, the Japanese Magikarp, value-wise, is nestled in amongst the special illustration rare Pokemon. It's not at the top end, and no one's pretending it is. But, you know, it's not up there. I mean, Dendro was the big card in the set. But it is absolutely there with a special illustration rare Pokemon. It is higher than average. It is on the top end of illustration rares. That is absolutely true. But it is not up there on the top end of cards from the block. And I'm not just talking about Paldea Evolved here, right? I'm talking about the entire Scarlet and Violet block so far. This is one of the biggest cards around. Within Paldea Evolved, if we look at the most expensive cards in the entirety of Paldea Evolved, do you want to know where Magikarp sits? Number 1. It is about a third higher than the special illustration rare Iono. And yeah, illustration rares you get free in a box. So there's 36 in the set in Paldea Evolved. So this Magikarp is 1 in 12 boxes. Anyone think the INO is 1 in 12 boxes? No, it's obviously rarer. And yet that's about $75 and the Magikarp's about $100. When I say the Magikarp makes no sense, I mean it makes no sense. And essentially the explanation, it's not a very satisfying explanation. But the explanation essentially is a bunch of people went, hey, yeah, that Magikarp's cool, and just started pushing the price up. Now, there's no others in the Scarlet and Violet block that are quite on that level, but this has happened again. The number 2 right now, we can look at it, is Groudon from Paradox Rift. This bottomed out at about $22 the end of March. It's now back up to about a $35 card, although the last 2 solds are all about $30. So call this about a $30 card. The Groudon is around about a $30 card. But why? And this is kind of what I said about Magikarp, except I can't even pretend that it's particularly valuable in terms of the Japanese set. Like, at least Magikarp was nestled up around these special illustration rares in its respective Japanese set. Still massively overvalued, but the Groudon? No. Now, I will tell you, it's the number 1 illustration rare in the equivalent Japanese set. That is absolutely true. But it's kind of down with around the full arts. It's a 600 yen card, at best. 600 yen is like proper job at the higher end here. 600 yen is $4. And that's the higher end. Like, that's if you're buying from a professional store that is, charging a little bit more because they know they can because they're one of the bigger stores. It's a $4 card. Yes, it is the biggest illustration rare in the set, but in terms of value, this Groudon, it's basically in line with the full art Bombardier. That is a rough equivalent here. If you're looking for, hey, which cards over in Japan are about the same price, where should the value of this card be nestled? Full art Bombardier. That is what we should be looking at as a comp here. Does anyone actually think Full Art Bombardier is here? No, obviously not. That is a $1.50 card at best. It's a $1.50 card. That is how much Bombardier is, and that's the level we're talking about over in Japan. That's roughly what we're looking at. That's the equivalent. And the thing is, like, if we look at Paradox Rift, now, this is not the biggest card in the set. Groudon is not the biggest card in the set. The biggest card in the set is Roaring Moon, which is about $55 rather than $30. So it's not number 1. But it is number 2. Which means this illustration rare Groudon is above special illustration rare Iron Hands. It's a special illustration rare, which means it's got a lower pull rate and it's ridiculously playable. It's higher than Special Illustration Rare Iron Valiant. Beautiful card, very playable. Special Illustration Rare Goldengo. Very, very playable. My point is, there are cards which have genuine, legitimate reasons for being fairly significantly higher. Yeah, they're not. They are all beaten by your Illustration Rare Groudon. Now, there is also Tyranitar. Tyranitar also came around in Paldea Evolved. Apparently Magikarp wasn't enough. Apparently we had to do it twice in Paldea Evolved. And the Tyranitar right now, you're rocking about probably about $22 is about fair. Last 2 sales are 22. The market price is about 18, but it's probably a little higher than that. $22 is probably a fair estimation here of value for the Tyranitar. And once again, there is just no justification for this. It's not a particularly playable card, and it's Tyranitar, and everybody loves Tyranitar, don't get me wrong. Pseudo-legendary and all of that. Tyranitar's always been popular. But again, just absolutely no reason whatsoever to be up here. If we look at the equivalent Japanese set, this is a 300 yen card. And that's under $2, incidentally. It's $1.95. In terms of value, You know, it's even significantly lower than, for instance, the Groudon we just looked at. Like, in terms of value, this is a standard, ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill illustration rare. Like, basically all the other illustration rares from the set are pretty much all about the same. They're all in line with Groudon. So, if we wanted to take some random one as a comp here, let's go for Orthworm, because firstly, it looks like Dune, and I've been reading Dune lately, and oh my word, that book's amazing. Films are phenomenal as well. They led me onto the book. Book's amazing. But also, it's done by Okacheke, so it makes me extremely happy. The Orthworm, in Japan, same price as Tyranitar. They are exactly in line with each other. The Orthworm's like a $4 card in English. The Tyranitar is rocking up like a $22 card. And it happened once more recently with Gastly. Gastly's doing exactly the same thing. Now, I will say Gastly got up to the ridiculous heights of $34. Gastly has at least had the decency to come down to about an $18 card. And does seem like it might still be falling. So there is a chance, you know, Gastly's the lowest of the four I'm showing you here. There is a chance that Gastly gets its act together a little bit and doesn't stay ridiculous like the others. Not saying it will. I'm saying there is a better chance that it will. But once again, you know, I've got very little new to say. I've made my point with the other cards I've shown you so far. This Gastly shouldn't be here. And yet, don't get me wrong, in terms of illustration rares, it is one of the highest. Not the highest, incidentally. If anyone's wondering, Fluttermane is actually higher. Now, remember, that was an Elite Trainer Box promo for us. Very, very playable card. So, it's hard to really compare because, again, we got it we got it as an Elite Trainer Box promo. So, it's hard to really judge it like that. But it's not even the number one illustration rare in the set. In terms of comparison, Full Art Iron Boulder. I love Full Art Iron Boulder. I revealed Full Art Iron Boulder, and it made me very, very happy, incidentally, because I love Terrakion. Here's the thing, though. I bought a Full Art Iron Boulder at EUIC. I went to one of the vendors who were there, and I was like, hey, I want Full Art Iron Boulder. They charged me £4. Honestly, I feel like I might have been ripped off a little bit. I feel like £4 was probably a little bit more than I needed to spend because it's a sub $2 card. At least according to TCG Player. For the record, I wasn't ripped off. It was clearly labelled at £4. I was happy to pay £4. I wanted that card. Less than the price of a booster pack. But my point is, that's about where Gastly should be. And I know Gastly's Gen 1 Pokemon, very popular, all of that, completely understand. But over in Japan, it's got the same value as an Iron Boulder. An Iron Boulder over here is a $2 card. Less than, to be fair. And that's the point I'm making here. We can have a look at these cards over in Japan, and they are comparatively so much cheaper, it's kind of laughable. None of the cards I've shown you in this video are particularly playable, or have anything else about them that would suggest they should be this high. They are all massively overpriced. And the explanation, as I've said, as unsatisfying as it is really just people went, oh, that card's cool, let's push the price up. And people just started buying and selling it for more money. And over time, that pushed the price up, and that's where we ended up. Sorry. That's where we are. But now it's over to you guys. Tell me which of these cards you've picked up. Tell me which ones you pulled. Tell me if you've got any explanation for the price of some of these cards. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Unknown One, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.